Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you, Pat. We're back from our closed session, obviously, and I just want to also welcome our students. Would you like to please introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Andres Mora. I'm a senior at Preble High School, and I'm the Green Bay Intercity Student Council president.
Hello, my name is Abigail Garcia. I am a senior at East High School, and I am part of the ICSC.
Okay, welcome. All right, would you all please rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, James, would you read the mission statement, please?
Sure. We educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world.
Thank you. Next is our land acknowledgement statement. We, the members of the Green Bay Area Public School District, recognize and honor the original inhabitants of Northeast Wisconsin. Our district lives, works, and learns upon the ancestral homelands of the Menominee and Ho-Chunk nations and the current homeland of Oneida Nation. We acknowledge the 12 diverse and vibrant Wisconsin First Nations who have persevered here since before recorded time and continue to be integral parts of our community. We uphold our responsibility to repair relationships, initiate partnerships, and stand with all First Nation communities. Okay, next we're going to move on to recognition. We have some special people to recognize tonight. I'm just going to read a little statement here. In recognition of Adult School Crossing Guard Recognition Week, which was last week, we would like to take a moment to recognize and express our sincere gratitude to the Green Bay City Crossing Guards who work tirelessly to ensure the safety of our students each and every day. These individuals play a vital role in not only directing traffic, but also providing a sense of security to families as their children navigate busy streets on their way to school. Crossing guards are often the unsung heroes of our community. In all kinds of weather, they stand on the front lines, ensuring that children cross safely and that our schools are accessible to all. Their commitment to the safety of our students is something that should never go unnoticed. Today, I ask that we extend our deepest appreciation to those dedicated individuals who help make our schools and neighborhoods safer. We are truly fortunate to have such a dependable team looking out for our children. Thank you to our crossing guards and all you do. And I believe we have a Steve, come on up. The crossing guard supervisor for Cross Safe representative for the city, who supervises our crossing guards and would like to say a few words. Oh.
Okay, thank you very much. We are always looking for help. It's one of my major things that I do all week long. If you have 2 hours a day, an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon, it works great for golfers in the fall and in the spring, which I am. And it's good with the kids. It's fun with the kids. We do not, as a correction, direct traffic though. That's the one thing we do not do. We're hoping that the traffic itself will direct itself as it's supposed to do. One of the biggest problems we have is crosswalks that people roll through. So please pay attention. The guards are out there. They're the last safety net for those children. And they're your children. They're your grandchildren. You're your neighbor kids. We thank you for honoring us and recognizing what we do. And again, give us a call, Cross Safe, call the city hall, call the Board of Education, call the police department. We work very closely with them. I'm always looking for people. So thank you for your time.
Steve, Steve, do you have any crossing guards here tonight?
Pardon?
Do you have any crossing guards here tonight?
No.
Oh, okay.
A lot of my folks are, in their 70s and 60s and 80s, and coming out at night is not what they could, really
I
wanna do.
understand.
So Chris Collard volunteered me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I also want to acknowledge all of our staff. I mean, I'm sure there are some in this room this evening who serve as crossing guards near our schools in addition to the city's efforts. Please know that your efforts that go above and beyond to keep our students safe is appreciated and noticed. If you are a staff member and you have served as a crossing guard, can you stand up right now? Yeah. Thank you. It's not for the faint of heart because we've all seen examples of some of the driving. So I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, thank you very much. All right, next we're on to open forum, Intercity Student Council report. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So for East High School, we have HOSA hosted a blood drive and created Valentine's Day cards for nursing homes. East Girls Basketball had their senior night and they hosted their freshman orientation last week. Now, coming into this new week, they're hosting a study-a-thon. We're getting ready for finals. For John Dewey, they had their event night to showcase the student projects, and they also had Valentine's Day Crush Soda fundraiser. It was very successful.
Hi. Over at Preble, 5 students qualified for the HOSA state competition. They had their talent show, Preble's Got Talent. Preble Show Choirs competed in Davenport, Iowa. Preble boys and girls basketball had their senior night. Preble's co-op class had a trip to Atlanta. Dance team placed 4th in D1 Palm at the state competition. And Preble hosted the Vocal and Piano Solo Ensemble Festival last weekend, and they'll be having their instrumental festival this Saturday. And then over at Southwest, FBLA students competed in regionals with 2 students going to state. They had their Due to Be Nice week, and 2 students qualified for the state swim meet last weekend. And then finally, over at West, 4 FCCLA students are advancing to their state competition. Sting Cancer created Valentine's Day cards for Aurora Hospital and St. Vincent's Hospital's Children Cancer Clinic. And that's all of them.
All right, thank you. Brian?
It's also my understanding that East is hosting their first girls basketball playoff game in quite some time. So that's on Tuesday. So congratulations to them. It's a big deal to get one to host. So good accomplishment, and go hear the pep band as well.
Okay, next is our open forum, but I believe we also have someone here representing the Packers. Oh, okay. So we've got Don Sipes. Oh, and is it Tori or Tony?
Tori.
Tori Wittenbrock.
Yep.
Very good. Go ahead, guys.
I'm Tori Wittenbrock from the Press Times. I'm here on behalf of Chris Leonard, our senior editor. I'm actually the sports editor there at the Press Times, and through our local coverage of the Packers and Packers history, we've found that oftentimes there's an overlap between sports and news coverage there. So Chris and I have done a lot of research and made many trips to the Packers Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame archives, as well as the UWGB archives. And in our research, Chris kind of fell into a rabbit hole of looking into the history of Curly Lambeau and his impact on our community. And that's kind of how this book was born. So she started out by putting together, I believe it was like a 16-part column, weekly column on him and his history with his family and his impact on our community and the Packers. And we had a lot of people coming in requesting columns that they missed in the paper, they forgot to keep, or like wondering when the next one would come out. And through all of that feedback, it kind of came to be that it turned into a book. So um, we're here to donate some books about Lambeau, the boy behind Green Bay football, to the Green Bay Area Public School District so that people in our community can continue to learn about him and his impact.
I am Don Sipes, and I'm the president of the Packers Hall of Fame Inc. And so what happened is that we started talking. I started talking with Chris Leonard and Tori, and they got them to do things about lives and be in the paper. And so then I invited them to the banquet, to the golf outing, and to our legacy series, which we started in 23. And the 23 was Lambeau. And so my thing is that when students would come and to do something in my house because they're helping out with somebody, I'd say, "Oh, you went to that school." I said, "Do you know that somebody's in the Hall of Fame from your school?" No. I was like, "Going really?" So I thought that it was a good idea to make the bust, make a plaque, get the information out there for the students. So now there's Curly Lambeau's at there, and so they heard me talk about the education to the kids, and so that's what kind of drove her to do this. And so then we did Lombardi at Lombardi Middle School, and this upcoming year we're going to do Arnie Herber at West High School, and so that'll be nice. So, many questions at all? But this is going to be great that we can do this for education, though. I'm really excited about that.
Well, we have some very auspicious graduates from our schools here in Green Bay, and these are some of them. So thank you so much for your generosity. I'm just thrilled about this. And thanks for coming in and sharing with us tonight.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, we do have another person who'd like to speak, Mr. Paul Bosher.
Hi, I'm Paul Busher. Is this thing on? I live at 1120 Elizabeth. I want to talk about declining enrollments and how we can reverse that trend. If you have a business, you want to increase your customer base. When we built Red Smith School, it was in the middle of a farm field, and they built hundreds of houses around it. So when you're thinking about building a new school, maybe build outward to help increase the population. Two things that really attract people. Like the suburban school districts are really growing. They're building new schools and but like a new school or a new golf course will really attract new housing development, and we're desperately in need of more students and more housing. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. James?
I propose that we remove G, job description changes, from the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. No, it's okay. I didn't needed a second too.
Just wanted to make sure there was.
I didn't move.
It's very important when the negotiations happen for there to be a consent agenda that there was an understanding that any one board member could remove it. And that's very important because it's one of the few things that one board member has a right to do, so.
Okay, do we need to vote? We don't need to vote. Just, it's been removed. So can someone make the motion for the rest of it?
I move that the consent agenda items as adjusted be approved.
Second.
Okay, I'm not sure if we take a. Yeah, any discussion about this? Okay, go ahead.
Online voting is now open. Were you able to vote online? Thank you. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, before we move on to G, I just want to note that we did just vote on a new principal for Dan's Elementary. Jen Good, is she here? Come on up. Would you like to say a few words? Yeah.
I have been here in the Green Bay Public Schools for 24 years now. This is my 24th year here in education. The past 4 have been at Dan's as an associate principal, and I am beyond honored to be moving to the head principal position for the 25-26 school year.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep, welcome aboard. Okay, moving on to G, job description changes. Would,
I'll make a motion.
go ahead, make a motion. Yep.
I move that the job description changes as presented be approved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Go ahead, James.
Laura, before I make a statement, I'd like to open and see if David can provide some context to this discussion.
Thank you. Good evening, board. Good evening, educators, audience in the room and watching online, student leaders. I'm going to share a message on behalf of Superintendent Vicki Beyer, who's unable to be with us here tonight. I'll read this statement. On February 14th, 2025, a Dear Colleague letter was sent to all school districts from the United States Department of Education Office for Civil Rights. From that time, districts had 14 days to comply, which is why the Board of Education is being asked to approve changes to several job descriptions. This is not a request the district administration takes lightly. However, to not be in compliance would put at risk approximately $40 million of federal funds, which support our students receiving free and reduced meals and provide additional staff and resources for our highest poverty schools. We remain committed to the mission of the Board of Education that the Board of Education has set out for us, which is to educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world. By providing high-quality instruction and recruiting and retaining committed and caring staff, along with intentional engagement of our students, families, and community, I am confident that our district can achieve our mission. Thank you.
Thank you, David. James?
Thanks, David. So as an individual board member, I just would like to make a statement. This evening, I am for the first time in 3 years going to vote contrary to my values under threat of action. The federal government's threat to withhold federal aid that supports our most vulnerable children is a factor that I cannot ignore tonight, and it compels my vote to make nonsensical changes to job description language. The school district, in order to proactively comply with guidance from the Office of Civil Rights, directed by an executive order, has presented changes to job descriptions for us to consider because failure to do so may result in the loss of federal funding. I am asked to remove terms like inclusion and diversity and to remove job responsibilities such as acknowledge and respect cultural differences from community and family engagement positions and a pupil services position. The district defined these roles with specific responsibilities to make sure that every family and child in this district feels safe and welcomed at our schools, period. The roles represent the implementation of the district's strategy to improve community relationships, to increase family involvement, and address external issues that impede student success. I acknowledge with my vote that we can improve community and family relationships without specific words in job descriptions. My vote also communicates my prioritization of students and programs that depend on federal dollars. It is my sincere hope that the district's response to the federal government's infringement on local control of our school district is to continue to expand our outreach activities in line with our district strategy of purposeful community and family engagement, and that we all keep alive the understanding that regardless of the attempts to appropriate the words to support a political agenda, diversity and inclusion are the opposite of discrimination. Thank you.
We're going to hear from James, or from Rick, and then from Brian.
All right. I too am opposed to voting yes on these proposed changes. And here is my prepared statement regarding the Department of Education letter dated February 14th, 2025, written by Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, Department of Education, Craig Trainer. The letter referenced Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. The letter claims that white and Asian students have in recent years been discriminated against, and that, quote, repugnant race-based preferences and other forms of racial discrimination have emanated throughout every facet of academia, close quote. This letter uses the explicit threat of withholding federal funds if certain demands are not met, specifically removing and curtailing reference to the term diversity, equity, and inclusion. B, race-based programs and policies and/or race-specific activities. C, treating students differently because of their race to achieve, quote, nebulous goals of achieving racial diversity, equity, and inclusion, close quotes. The letter goes on to say that all educational institutions are, quote, advised to ensure their policies and actions comply with existing civil rights law, cease all efforts to circumvent prohibitions on the use of race by relying on proxies or other indirect means to accomplish such ends, and C, cease reliance on third-party contractors, clearinghouses, or aggregators that are being used by institutions in an effort to circumvent prohibited uses of race, close quote. The letter closes out by the threat, quote, institutions that fail to comply with federal civil rights law may face potential loss of federal funding, close quote. I take that DOE letter to be a statement of intent with suggested advice. I did not take it as a directive, nor should we. To be sure, we should, as we continue to do, conduct rigorous periodic reviews of all of our programs and policies to ensure compliance with federal and state laws. We make decisions based upon objective truth, verified data, and facts bearing on the problems. Our stated positions and actions will be consistent with the will of the community, which is diverse, equal, and included. Everything we do should stand the light of day. Our collective response to this letter should be commensurate with its actual power, which is minimal. By that I mean we will not overreact to it. But let's not get it twisted. Our educational results of the children in our district vary widely by socioeconomic conditions. The reasons for these performance disparities are as varied as there are children in the district. Our job as a district is to identify, mitigate, or eliminate the reasons that are in the way of a quality education. That takes time, people, professional resources, and money. It also takes determination, self-discipline, parental involvement, student commitment and responsibility, and community support, as these job descriptions define. And yes, it also means we make the tough decisions of priority of effort and resource allocation without those decisions being at the expense of someone else's quest for equity. What I am not interested in is the superficial semantics exercise of changing job titles and job descriptions of valid and vetted positions or of policies because they may contain the words diversity, equity, and inclusion in them. I am not interested in canceling programs that celebrate the rich diversity of this district and of this community, or programs that prepare our children for the realities of this world. What I am not interested in is the curtailment of active advocacy and searches for a qualified, diverse workforce, with heavy emphasis on the word qualified, and certainly not at the expense of our existing wonderful workforce. What I am most interested in is creating a district-wide atmosphere of inclusion and safety where every kid starts and finishes their time in this district with the genuine feeling of yes, you can, yes, you will.
Thank you. Go ahead, then.
I don't have a prepared statement, but I would like to echo James' sentiment that I will vote for these job description changes, but it will be against my values and my best judgment. However, I support our superintendent and our senior staff in having the best response to this awful kind of thing. I trust them. And as my colleagues have said, they'll support it because it seems to be the most logical way that we can address this. I just want to say publicly that I deplore the behavior that we have been witnessing throughout our country in the senseless, mindless decimation of our federal government. And now we see it in the Department of Education, and now it comes home to our own schools and to our own district. I deplore it. I hate this, but I trust that our staff has done the best they can to respond, and so I will vote for these things.
Go ahead, Brian.
Lynn, I'm on the same page. This stinks. This takes away local control. There's $40 million invested in it, and this is absolutely atrocious that this has to come up. I'm going to plug my nose. I'm going to vote in favor of it, and I'm going to hope that we continue to do the work that we've been doing.
Okay, cool. Andrew?
So the struggle I have with this vote is that we're not we're not quite in a position where, actually, I'll retract that. We are not even close to a position where a law was rammed through and signed that said your federal funding is gone if you have positions with these words in them. Right? We have a threatening letter which is illegal. There is not. We've had processes for, changing Title IX is not an easy thing. You're going to see later tonight. There's discussion about having to go back to all the way back to 2020 from 2024 because that's how long it takes for these things to get litigated. There's a process here. My concern with voting yes tonight is the idea of where, and I fully respect those who feel that a yes vote is necessary because the risk at this moment in time is too great. But there's also a risk of folding at the first sign of a political threat. That's bad too. So both ways are bad. And as I'm listening to my fellow board members, this is really a struggle. My initial thought when I was thinking about this was, well, we might just have to vote yes and hold our nose, but maybe there's a time that we would have to revisit this, but I don't know that our hand is forced today. And to vote yes for this, I think I would need to see something that is a clearer, actionable threat. And I don't believe and I understand things are being done in government that today that there isn't legal authority for that are being done anyways. There are things being directed by people today in the federal government who don't really work for the federal government exactly, but they are calling a lot of shots anyways. But I'm not ready for us to, I'm not ready for us to fold this fast. That being said, I do want to say with regards to these positions for those who might be, you know, as I've said many times, for those who are wondering, for those who have been looking when the hot thing was looking for critical race theory and these types of things, it was never found here because we never did that. That's a college level theory. What we've done and have always done with history is we've taught history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that's how we've always done things. When we look at what is done in our Director of People Services and Equity Department, you know, the state looks at, one of our directives from the state is to improve performance of whatever 25% of students, whoever they are behind, whatever color they are, whatever disability, non-disability, take the 25% of anyone and move them up. That work is not race-based. You know, there's our family engagement, equity, and inclusion department does a lot of work just with our community partners that are open to everyone, to the Boys and Girls Club, to Scouts, community organizations. You know, what does that mean for our family engagement coordinators, where we intentionally have hired personnel that speak languages that are commonly used at homes to reach out to families? Or, I mean, how crazy is this gonna get? Are they gonna say, well, nope, you have to have everyone have an equal number of all of them? I mean, how crazy is the federal government gonna get? So I just don't know that I'm ready to fold tonight off of this letter that is not attached to any law that says funding would be lost.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Koo.
This is very difficult for me because I ran for this position because I believe that we all could come together, regardless who you are, but the fact that you have a beautiful idea that echoes through everybody here in Green Bay. That's why we got elected. And that's inclusive. And we have an inclusive culture here in Green Bay that no matter where you look, we are all Americans. But somehow this note, and along with what we have with this new administration, this idea of cleansing, using other people as your targets, that's really not American to me. And that's not what I stand for. That's not what my father raised me to be. And it's hard because I know that standing in this position, the district, the students, is what I'm after to protect. And if I say yes to this, I just gave up everything that my father has taught me, everything that is right, do the right thing, say the right thing. When wrong, you correct it. When you see somebody bully the little kids or your friends, you stand up for that. That is difficult for me. Very difficult for me. And as a matter of fact, this entire week, and yet watching America, and we finger point the minorities, the little tiny groups that really doesn't have a voice, and we say they're the fault because we're in this position. That to me is un-American. And the idea that they want to create and avoid discrimination and division because this domestic policy of this administration about DEI, I'm actually embarrassed because Americans are much more smarter than this. Many of you are sitting at home watching around you and you're not doing anything about it, then you are enabling this process. And I'm watching this and I'm not going to enable this process. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to keep my faith. And I'm going to tell people all around me to stand up, to fight for what is right. We deserve, everybody deserve, whether you've been here 250 years or just got here, everybody contributes to this great country, Green Bay in particular, to this great school district. And tonight, I'm going to vote no. It hurts, it pains me, but we have to do what's right. I can't give that up, and I hope you don't give that up either. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go last. Hard to follow that. So sometimes when I'm called on to take a hard vote, I have found it helpful to start from a place of gratitude. So today I want to express my gratitude to those dedicated professionals whose job descriptions we are voting on tonight. These people have a deep understanding of our students and families that many of us may not fully appreciate. They recognize that each child comes with their own unique set of needs, strengths, and dreams, and I have consistently witnessed their profound care and compassion, especially toward our most vulnerable students. I am confident that this commitment will persist, regardless of the changes in job descriptions. Thank you for all that you do for our students and families. And I know there's a lot of those people in this audience. In fact, there are a lot of teachers in this audience tonight, and I'm so glad to see you all here. I know that you support our students every day with whatever need or needs our students show up with. So if you work on behalf of students and staff every day, would you please stand up? We're also grateful to you. And again, so glad to see you here tonight. As we all kind of jump off this cliff together. Over the last 8 years I've been on the school board, I've had to take very tough votes. This one feels different from all the others, and I'm casting my vote with a heavy heart and a large amount of sadness. The sadness comes from knowing that this has been imposed on our district by people far removed from our community who have no real understanding of what our students and families need to thrive in our schools and in our increasingly diverse community. By silencing these discussions, we risk perpetrating inequalities and failing to prepare our students for a world that is increasingly diverse and deeply interconnected. It defies common sense to pretend that our students come to us all needing the same things and that race and culture and poverty and disabilities and gender can just be ignored. Our students deserve to have their differences acknowledged and celebrated and to feel valued, respected, and supported. To impose this on our school district and to demand the removal of words like diversity, equity, inclusion is to ignore the truth of who we are who we serve, and what our mission is. I invite the media to go out in our hallway out here and look at the bulletin board that shows the 40 languages that are spoken in our district. Each language represents a different set of experiences and perspectives. Ask the question, who benefits from imposing such changes on our district? It certainly isn't our students or our families. They rely on our education system to support and acknowledge their varied needs. I know there are people who will applaud this action, who think that these demands from our federal government are appropriate. I would like to say something to those people. When did it become shameful to celebrate diversity, work toward equity, and insist on inclusion for all students? And if you believe these changes feel like there is some kind of victory, let me assure you, there are no winners here. These new requirements make sure of that. To conclude, I would like to reaffirm our commitment to students and families. We will continue to strive to meet each student's needs. I encourage parents and students to stay engaged and to work with us. I plan to work every day to uphold the promise that we often talk about at this board table. All means all. Thank you. Okay. Andrew.
I think I overlooked in speaking before, and if I am saying it a second time, then that's okay too, because it's important. In voting no on this, it is that's exercising my role as an independent board member. I find no fault in staff feeling that they were forced to bring it forward in this way. I also believe that we're going to do the right thing by kids anyways, whether or not we are forced to play games with words. So I think, from what I can tell, there's not, although there will be a split vote tonight, doesn't seem to me that there is a split position on this, or a split position on, getting things done in, 2 weeks through a threatening letter. I respect those who say that it might be more dangerous than not. I think it might be more dangerous to cave, and I would agree with those who have said that both are awful and we should have never been put in this position. Finally, anything that came from the federal government that became a directive pushed on school districts, and there's so many thousands of them that for everyone in this room, there are some that you like and some that you don't, because there can't not be, because there's tens of thousands of them from all sorts of administrations that got in there. But the difference between all of those in this is that all of them went through a long process. Public comment, meetings, hearings, committee hearings, administrative hearings. So this is new territory, and although I'm voting no, I have utmost respect for those who feel that the lesser of evils is to have to vote yes on this one.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Rick.
Just a point of clarification, because I think it was misunderstood by one of my fellow board members. I am voting no on this one. There is nothing right about this in the spirit of civil rights, civil disobedience when called for. This is one that requires me to say hell no. So I just want to make that clear to my fellow board members. That's my position.
Anybody else? Okay. Kinsey, we're ready to vote.
Lee,
No.
Mills,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
Becker,
No.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Crossan.
No.
Okay, the results have been entered and the motion is carried. The result of the individual board member votes are as follows. Lee, yes. Mills, yes. McCoy, yes. Lyerly, yes. Becker, no. Gerlach, yes. Crossan, no. Motion carries 4-3. You have that marked as a no.
Okay. All right, does anyone need a break? Let's
Move that we take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, 5 minutes, guys.
appreciate your honesty. What's really important is really
I got to say that when I look at my kids' eyes and say, I'm going to teach you English, I'm going to teach you this.
I'm a retired health professional. We rely a lot on research. And they're telling doctors to change what they wrote in research.
What we need is 1 or 2%.
They are standing up and they're saying, okay, well then your research is being published. Life-saving research. We're going to get away. I'll tell you what was our if I was in research 16 years ago, that drug is keeping me alive. If it wasn't for that research, and they want to wipe out our kids' education.
All right, we need to get going again, guys.
Yeah, totally understand. So my, have you, daughter-in-law agrees with me. Don't know. You. Melissa here is our legal counsel. And, it's totally wanting. Nice meeting you.
Oh, right.
Bye.
Can you just like sit up here with us? That would really help
Lightens the mood, doesn't it?
lighten the mood a little bit.
Vic just left.
Oh. Okay, we're back. Next, we're going to move on to action items. The rest of our, well, not this particular next part, but after that, there'll be a long series of votes on policies and just kind of giving everyone in the room a heads up about that. So anyway, so next, we're going to, well, take it away, Angie.
I move that the resolution of establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $105 million in general obligation promissory notes and not to exceed $136,175,000 in total with the taxable general obligation promissory notes as presented be approved.
Second.
Okay. So this is a referendum.
Yeah, good evening. I've got Mike Clark with us. It probably feels like you just saw us because you did. So we're going to talk about the second phase of the referendum that we passed in November. And Mike is just going to kind of walk through what that looks like. Very similar to what we did, just some different amounts. So pretty straightforward.
So I just want to highlight a couple things we're trying to achieve, a reminder, because it was just in November that I think it was here. We're approaching this financing to really minimize the risk of the district paying arbitrage, which it had done on the prior referendum. And this plan, I think, accomplishes that or will accomplish that, especially we have the draw schedule for the project. So the portion of the debt, which would be the $14 million that was previously approved, and then the approximately $97 to $98 million this time are subject to spend down requirements by the IRS. By doing the taxable portions, those are not subject to those arbitrage, and we are paying those off very quickly. Actually, April 1 of this year, you'll be paying off the $32.825 million that was taxable the last time. So any earnings you get on that district can retain and use for other projects or to pay debt service are really allowable. So the concept is the same for this next phase, to get some of it in a taxable portion. And the district will pay that off very quickly again, and again, avoid any arbitrage penalties. The wording of the resolution, and then the subsequent resolution as well, is worded in a way that allows us, when we go to price these, to shift between, depending on interest rates, shift between the two issues, put more into the taxable if it's beneficial, or put more into the tax exempt if beneficial. So that's that not to exceed language that's part of the resolution, which is a little bit different than the last time the board approved resolutions for parameters. Again, it's good. We're very confident that we're going to deliver a very positive result for the taxpayers in terms of the tax impact of the referendum. The debt will be paid. This debt will be paid in full in 10 years, which is pretty amazing given the amount, and puts the district in a good position going forward if there are any other efforts that the district would feel to take to the voters. So we're feeling good about everything kind of falling into place on the financing side. So with that, I'll conclude any comments. Take any questions.
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right, we're on to the next resolution. Would someone read the motion, please?
I move that the resolution establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $42 million of taxable general obligation promissory notes and not to exceed $136,175,000 in total with the general obligation promissory notes as presented be approved.
Second.
All right, go ahead.
Just no really additional comments. Again, just to emphasize that we don't anticipate the taxable being 142, would be less than that. But if rates are favorable and we move more to the taxable and eliminate the risk of arbitrage penalties, we would do so, but we won't know that until the time of pricing. So.
Okay, anybody have any comments? It's hard not to look at these two very large amounts and be reminded quite specifically of how generous our community is around public education and how deeply they believe in our district. And I just don't want to give up the opportunity to say thank you and to express gratitude. It's a lot of money. So, okay. All right, Kinsey.
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thanks, guys. All right, we're going to move on to C. Would someone read the motion, please?
I move that Tweed Garrett Mechanical be awarded the bid for the HVAC system upgrade at John Dewey Academy of Learning in the amount of $1,343,650 as presented be approved.
Second.
Any questions? Any discussion? Again, these were all discussed in our last meeting, but there's room for further if anyone needs to ask further questions. Okay, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay. Next, D, would someone read the motion, please?
I move that in accordance with the provisions of Wisconsin State Statute 65.905A, the adopted changes to the previously approved 2024-2025 budget amounts as presented be approved.
Second.
Any questions or any discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right, E, would someone read the motion, please?
I move that Nicolay Elementary School be renamed to Nicolay Elementary Community School as presented be approved.
Second.
Any questions? Brian?
So I have a comment on this. I brought it up at the meeting when we were discussing it as well. The community school model is something that should be incredibly valuable to this district. It's a national program. I sent out a link to all of the board members if they needed more information on it. And when I get into the legislative update, you're going to see that the governor has proposed investing a lot of resources into helping mental health, helping our students in the areas that a community school model will help insist. So I'm very happy to see that Nicolay Elementary will be our community school. I think it's a valuable program. I hope the district can continue to expand on it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Good to see Nicolay represented in the House. Okay. All right, on to F. Would someone read that, please? Go ahead.
I move that pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 118.07, Section 4CP, the written drill evaluations submitted by the principals from all district schools as reviewed be accepted.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right, G, would someone read the motion, please?
I move that the district maintain their investments with CSIS 6 OPEB trust and remain in the moderate growth portfolio investment strategy 3 as presented be approved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, next is H, curricular dogs. I'm sure you all have about 20 questions for Melissa on this, so.
I
mean,
move that the revisions to the Board of Education Policy 383.2 curricular dogs as presented be approved.
Second.
Any questions? Any discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay. Aye, would someone read the motion, please?
I move that revisions to Board of Education Policy 446, student searches as presented be approved.
Second.
All right, questions or discussion? Rick?
Yeah, and I have the same concern that I did when we were in the work session on section or paragraph 3 implementation all the way down to D1B. The intent of the change, as we had discussed, was to permit folks authorized to do a search to conduct the search without having to involve security resource officers if they believe that that the search may not yield any dangerous items, weapons or what have you, that they had that ability and could make that judgment call. The intent was to minimize SRO involvement in what would then be searches that would not necessarily result in some sort of criminal escalation. And the way that the change is now, it still says that school administration may attempt to contact a school resource officer to conduct the search under the administration's direction. And then that part that's redlined out and then says, unless the information justifying the search suggests that the student is in possession of dangerous materials. And then it goes on. So that part that says, going back up where the red underline says, may attempt to contact a school resource officer, in my opinion, it still gives the subtle implication and hint that they probably should make that call to the SRO. And that was, we were trying to not have that happen, because I still think the risk is there of rapid escalation of an issue for what would not necessarily be the need for an SRO. So I would suggest that we take out that that whole part about school administration may attempt to contact a school resource officer to conduct the search under the administration's direction. And it should just simply say, if to something to the effect that if they don't, if that school administrator is at a point of feeling that there is no threat of anything that would warrant the need for a police officer, that they then could conduct the search. So that's where I think we should go with this. That was what I thought we had communicated in the last meeting, and I apologize if I wasn't clear, but the intent is to minimize and only use SRO involvement if you needed to, if there was a decision or at least a concern that there was need for police involvement. I think that then mitigates and minimizes the risk of of unnecessary rapid escalation of an issue.
Brian?
Rick, I'm on the same page with you and I agree, but I believe that by switching out should to may, that's the intent of that. So
If it's in there, somebody reads it, they're gonna take it as, well, I'm gonna err on the side of caution and involve an SRO. You just know that that's what somebody would do if they see this in here.
Lynn?
I think I have an easy solution. If you just have it say, in a situation in which a search of a student's person or personal belongings is appropriate, the school administration may conduct the search under the administration's direction, period. If the information justifying the search suggests that the student is in possession of dangerous materials whereby the expertise of law enforcement is necessary, comma, school administration may contact a school resource officer. They pay me to do that kind of stuff, Rick.
Anybody else want to offer up? Melissa, does this legally, does this work?
I'm a little worried Lynn's gonna come in after my job, but yes, what Lynn has suggested makes absolute sense. If we can just connect to Lynn to make sure that I have the right wording from you.
Okay, so, but, go ahead, Brian.
So since we've got to post it, if Lynn were to make that as a motion right now, then we could second it and vote on it.
Let's do that. Do you have it written down? Okay, go ahead, if you can.
Sure.
Go real
Sure.
slowly for Kinsey.
I move that we change Part 3, Section DB to the following. In a situation in which a search of a student's person or personal belongings,
Slow down.
it's all there. I'm just reading
Oh.
it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Here
Yeah,
we go.
she's,
But it's already there. That part's already there.
I'll start again with DB. In a situation in which a search of a student's person or personal belongings is appropriate, comma, school administration may conduct the search under the administration's direction, period. If the information justifying the search suggests that the student is in possession of dangerous materials whereby the expertise of law enforcement is necessary, comma, school administration may contact a school resource officer to conduct the search.
Can I just make a friendly? May contact law enforcement and request their assistance because there might not be a school resource officer.
all right.
I second.
All right, does anyone need to talk about this or comment further? All right, we're ready to vote. What's that?
The amendment.
Rick seconded it. Yeah, for the amendment.
Are we ready to vote? I'll do voice votes.
This is just on the amendment.
Correct.
Right, okay, yep.
Crossan,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Becker, Lyerly,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Okay. So now we move on to passing it as amended.
I move that the revisions to board policy 446 as amended, student searches be approved.
Second.
Again, any questions or any discussion? All right, Kinsey?
Lee,
Yay.
Mills,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Crossan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, on to J. Would someone read the motion, please?
I'll move that the revisions to Board of Education Policy 446.1, searches of lockers, desks, and other storage areas as presented be approved.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Kinsey? Yes.
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
All right, Kay. Someone read the motion?
I'll move that the revisions to Board of Education Policy 522.4 conflict of interest as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Right, just a few more. L.
I move that the revisions to Board of Education Policy 411.11 sexual harassment and sexual violence as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Andrew?
I'm gonna vote no on this, and I have no issue with the staff making a recommendation that may have been forced somewhat by a court ruling, but ultimately, there is a situation here where although I'm very confident we'll do the right things for our students, we'll continue to take any reports very seriously. Anything that makes the process even slightly more difficult, or I have to vote no on, although I'm again very confident that in actual practice, serious incidents like this will be properly handled by our staff.
Any other discussion or questions? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Becker, no. McCoy, yes. Lyerly, yes. Mills, yes. Gerlach, yes. Crossan, yes. Lee, yes.
Okay, M.
I move that the revisions of Board of Education Rule 411.11 sexual harassment and sexual violence complaint procedures as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried. The results of the individual board member votes are as follows. Lee, yes. Crossan, yes. Gerlach, yes. Mills, yes. Lyerly, yes. McCoy, yes. Becker, no.
All right.
I'll move that the revisions to Board of Education policies and rules in the 300 and 400 series policies related to pupil services and teaching and learning as presented be approved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board in favor.
Okay, and finally, O.
I move that the Board of Education policies 443.9 insubordinate and defiant behavior, 447.2 detentions, as well as Rule 447.2 student detention procedures as presented be repealed.
Second.
Discussion, Andrew.
And I'll just point out that these are situations where things were merged into other policies rather than being a standalone policy.
Anybody else? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay, that completes our voting for the night. We're gonna move on to the superintendent's update, which will be Mr. David Johns tonight on behalf of Vicky. What's that? Yeah, we're still gonna do it, right? Yeah, okay. Good night, guys.
Thank you very much. I think it's a great time to look into our schools and our district and our community and see some of the great things that are going on. So happy to share the superintendent's update that Superintendent Byer had prepared, and we'd added a few more pieces to that. We'll get the slide deck up and we'll work our way through. Just a reminder that our intention with the superintendent update each month is to really work and share with the community those things that are aligned with our portrait of a graduate. So images and depictions of the things that our staff and students are doing that are consistent with the values that this community has shared with us in terms of who it is we're developing in our schools. So Together We Are One is how we kicked off our year, and there's some excitement here in these photos. First, we have participants in the Meal Prep with a Purpose community enrichment class who learned about family-friendly, Superintendent Byer gave me a tongue twister here, family-friendly freezer meal prep while giving back to the community in partnership with We Are Lasagna Love. I think that's my new favorite organization name. Around 30 lasagnas were prepared by the class, which will be donated to area families. Also in this picture, we see first grade teacher Megan Fletcher from Nicolay Community Elementary School, who received the Brewers Grand Slam Teacher Award from the principal Lori MacArthur and Brewers president Rick Schlesinger at Nicolay. This was a couple of weeks ago, and I had my first opportunity to see the racing sausages in person. So that was a special add to that day. Monthly, our paraprofessionals and mentor support sessions are held, and here the team discussed their needs and future learning topics, collaboration with GBEA and various department leaders. This month they were at Southwest, and previously they were at Red Smith at the GBEA offices, at Sullivan, and at Franklin. We hosted State Attorney General Call, who was here on campus, along with the Executive Director of the Office of School Safety to highlight updates to the school safety protocols. They chose our district because of the amazing work that our safety and security team, led by Chris Collar, continues to do to ensure that we have safe schools. Kale and the team from Somerville presented the design for the new West Side Elementary School. Good turnout as we enter into the next phase of this project. Rick Crossan, board member, and Jess Melkor, Director of Elementary School Leadership, are facilitating the committee that will name the school, and it'll be presented to the board in March. Okay, here we're into the portrait, and remember our portrait is divided into 5 areas, each defined by aspirational language for our students. Academic achievers perform at high levels in their studies and demonstrate commitment to learning. This slide depicts the Fort Howard first graders reading to puppies who attended a dog rescue facility just in the neighborhood of Fort Howard School, practicing their reading, their fluency, and also engaged in some writing exercises and community services. NEW and NWTC partnership continues to highlight how the collaboration builds academic success for our students who have that immediate proximity to higher ed learning. And then here also as well, we're seeing student growth celebrated as our readers at Nicolay Elementary Community School are celebrated through their progress as Lexia rock stars. Communicators and connectors effectively communicate and collaborate with others, showing teamwork and empathy. Those same students at Fort Howard and some additional students also visited Exceptional Equestrians in De Pere, where they focused on building their SEL skills like self-confidence, trust, and communication by working directly with horses and those who care for horses. JDOL, as mentioned in our student presentation today, had their event night sharing their projects. They presented to visitors and had opportunities to communicate what they were studying and learning. Our students involved in the First Nations program created hearts for a bulletin board at the district office. It's out this hallway. The center heart says, "I love you" in Potawatomi, Stockbridge, Munsee, Ojibwe, Menominee, Oneida, Ho-Chunk. If you're wondering about the next great book you should read, the students at Langlade Elementary have some recommendations for you. They connect each other through a love of reading and recommendations in their library. And then the portrait is not just for our students. Here you see two of our school leaders in the lower left, Maddie Herman, principal at Webster Elementary, and Janae Banks Wilson from Lincoln Elementary, practicing an engagement strategy and having quite a good time doing it. Personal architects take responsibility for their actions and choices, actively pursuing personal growth with a vision for their own success. Mr. Benetti took the Preble Business and Marketing internship class to Atlanta for a business trip. They toured Google headquarters where students learned tips on how to set themselves up for a career there. They focused on practical advice like how to use LinkedIn to make contacts and search for college internship opportunities. The trip was full of professional opportunities, soft skill development, and social networking. A highlight of the trip was meeting with Preble alumni and Hollywood actress stuntwoman Linda Kessler. Linda spoke to the class about her life in the acting business and how entertainment content makes money. Sixth graders from across the district attended Mind Trekkers at NWTC. This is an annual hosted by Michigan Tech that allows students to explore STEM classes, careers, and theories. Leaders and teammates exhibit the qualities to lead and inspire others as well as work collaboratively. The West High School boys basketball team has surpassed 10 wins for the first time since the 2005-2006 season. Sometimes even the little things remind us of our values. At the right is a charming poster outside a first grade classroom at Beaumont Elementary School. And if you step into Miss Marquita Nordbeck's classroom, it proves that she walks her talk and absolutely personifies the message on the poster outside of her room. That message says, "Let's root for each other." Empowered navigators develop and sharpen practical skills to journey through everyday life. Perseverance, a practical skill that was on full display this past Saturday as the boys basketball team at East won their first game since 2023. We were very proud of Coach DeVault and the boys. Inspiration, a practical skill to journey through life. Dr. James Bailey from Bellin Hospital donated 2-inch double bank roller tool cabinets to our students at City Stadium Automotive Program. The senior in that program, Alex Olea, said this gift inspires him to give back someday when he is in a position to do so. Here's a profile of some of our graduates right now out in the community doing great things. In the front, we see Superintendent Byer visiting a game at UW Oshkosh and getting a chance to connect with a former Southwest High School graduate who also performs bass in the Oshkosh band. Preble graduate Olivia Zugi played on the opposing team. Southwest graduate Jaden Simmons is playing for Michigan State currently this year and having a great season. Preble graduate James Koshin is now a voting member of the Recording Academy that helps determine Grammy Awards. He joins other artists, producers, recording engineers, and other musical professionals who have a voice in music's highest honor. So that concludes the superintendent update. Proud and happy and always excited to share with you a glimpse inside of the great things that are happening within our school district and our community. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, David. All right, I think we'll move on then to, what's that? Did we have any questions for David? Go ahead, Coop.
David, I'm just curious, what did the East boys basketball coach say to the team to motivate them to break this record?
I think at this point, that's his secret, and I hope.
I went to the West basketball game on Friday, and holy cow, was that a thrilling game. It was a nail biter and very, very intense. And unfortunately, West didn't win, but boy, they put up a strong game. Okay, anybody else? All right, we're gonna move on to the legislative update, and that would be Brian.
So I wanted to focus on Governor Evers' budget proposal, hitting some key points. With this, everyone has it available. I'm getting it from a fellow friend of education site here. So just to give some highlights, Governor Evers proposes increasing general funding with revenue limits to an additional 345 students per year for the fiscal 26-27, lower the revenue limits, which impacts us greatly with it, increasing per pupil categorical aid with a $212 million investment, general equalization aid of $1.2 billion, which is unrestricted funding that schools can use on an assortment of needs, improving our categorical state aids with over $1.9 billion investments, including special education aid, which would give us $1.1 billion more at a reimbursement rate of 60%. This is all state issues that you can contact your state legislator on how you see fit. High cost special education aid, $18.5 million over the biennium to increase the high cost special education reimbursement. Sparsity aid, school-based mental health, $300 million invested in that, which goes into our community school models. Healthy meals, healthy kids, ensuring no kids go hungry at school with a $154.8 million investment for the governor's Healthy Meals program. It goes on, and I'm sure all of you can find it, and I would encourage you to contact your legislators to make sure that something gets passed with that. One other part, one of the best moments I've had as a school board member the last 3 years is participating in the Brown County Institute of Learning graduation. And this is tied into the budget, kind of, but it's my report, so I'm gonna share it anyways. The Brown County Institute of Learning is where we teach our incarcerated youth. And we need to recognize the fact that as a public school, we provide everyone with a free and appropriate public education. And this takes place in the Brown County Jail. And the reason this is tied in is the governor has also talked about revamping our incarceration, our prison system. And one of it's dealing with incarcerated youth throughout the state. And while I recognize these students might be in a different area of that, it's a huge, huge thing that will impact our students and our youth on here. So I shared in a podcast with the board from the New York Times. It's a podcast where it's talking about what happened when America emptied its youth prisons. It talks about a 20-year experiment and how public policy is impacted by it. This is something that the governor's budget has an opportunity to really impact the youth of Wisconsin. So I encourage people to look into it. And as I said, I shared the podcast with the board members. It's sent to you, so it's interesting to see on there. So that's my report.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else to share around that? Okay. So that completes our agenda. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session. Go ahead, Lynn.
I move that the board adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, section 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, to wit, superintendent's performance evaluation.
Second.
Wait. Kinsey?
McCoy,
Aye.
Lyerly,
Aye.
Mills,
Aye.
Gerlach,
Aye.
Crossan,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Becker.
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned into closed session. Thank you, everybody.
You have been watching the Green Bay Area Public School District's Board of Education meeting. Please visit the school district's website, www.gbaps.org, for more information on the district and future meeting dates. If you cannot fully access the information on this video, please let us know the accessibility issue you are having by calling 920-448-2025 or by email at communications@gbaps.org. We will try to provide the information to you in an alternative format and/or make the necessary improvements to make the information accessible.